Good day, gamers. What's going on? The name is AK, owner of Extreme Measure Productions, and today I'm bringing you yet another X-React video presentation, and this one is going to be a little bit more on the sad side. As you can tell by the video title, this marks the end of life for Wii U. Those are the words of none other than Nintendo of America President Reggie-Fis Aime, who, in a recent interview, has confirmed that The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is going to be the final first-party Wii U game released. And quite frankly, let's be honest, nobody was not expecting this, alright? The writing was on the wall. It's pretty obvious. It was pretty obvious for a while now that Nintendo was moving away from Wii U support, but all Reggie has done now is actually come out and said, yes, this is the end. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, last game that we're going to be putting out on Wii U. It's not all bad news. He did mention that they are going to be supporting online services like on Mario Kart 8 and Splatoon for the foreseeable future, but in terms of game releases, this is it. So from now on, you can expect any new Wii U releases are just going to be like indie games. And this is very similar to the way that the original Wii went out back in 2012. Like, this is literally almost a mirror image, except it's way more depressing because at that point, the Wii had already sold over 100 million units, so it was dying a slow and painful death, but it died a slow and painful death on top of a bed of gold roses. The Wii U is dying a slow and painful death on the top of a very small, pale, slightly discolored gold roses. 13 million units versus over 100 million, you can see that Nintendo put the Wii out to pasture after it did a very good job. Nintendo is putting the Wii U out to pasture after it did a minimal good job. And this is coming from someone who absolutely loves the system, but I'm going to be the first to tell you that yes, the Wii U did not perform the way that it should have. And especially being a follow-up to such an amazing system that in terms of sales that was the Wii, it's basically a slap in the face to Nintendo. I mean, they saw their best selling home system ever. That's what the Wii was. The best selling home system ever, the second highest selling home system of all time, and the fifth best selling system of all time. I mean, to come from that prestige, to have a console that you can say is our best selling home system ever, is the fifth best selling game system in existence, and the second best selling home system of all time is quite frankly a very big honor. And to now change that out with, this is our least selling home system ever. This is one of the least selling home systems, period. And this is our shortest lived console ever, not including the Virtual Boy. So yeah, that's quite the contrast. But the way they're going out is very similar, where you had a pretty decent amount of good games being released one after the other. And the next thing you know, there's nothing. And then the last thing on the radar is a big Zelda game. The Wii went out with Skyward Sword, now the Wii U is going out with Breath of the Wild. But unlike Skyward Sword, it was not being dual released on Nintendo's brand new home system, but maybe the Wii U would have sold a lot better if Skyward Sword was dual released, just like how Twilight Princess was and how Breath of the Wild is about to be. But yeah, this is the end of the line, and I guess I can't say it's not going out on a bad note. I mean, Breath of the Wild is Nintendo's most ambitious game ever. Not just their most ambitious Zelda game ever. This is their biggest game that they've ever created, period. They've never amassed a development team as big as what they've done for Breath of the Wild. So this is the most detailed, most ambitious, biggest game ever. So you can't say that the Wii U is going out on a poor note. But when you look at how the system has performed over its 4-year life cycle and the amount of negativity that it generated, I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, people weren't sure what to expect back in 2011 when it was announced. But the amount of negativity that has been going on constantly since basically the beginning of 2012 up until this point is absolutely ludicrous. I mean, people had it out for Nintendo for a long time. Nintendo was supposed to be doomed eons ago, and this is just a chant that has been constantly repeated again and again. But this generation particularly has been devastating for them in terms of their reputation. And it's quite sad that the biggest console manufacturer in terms of legacy is now has their backs against the wall to the point where they basically are a part of the wall. I mean, the gaming industry has it out for Nintendo, let's face it. Critics, analysts, journalists, gamers. They all have it out for Nintendo. Outside of Nintendo's small but very loyal group of fans, it's like the whole gaming industry either doesn't care or just has it out for Nintendo. And it's crazy to think that this is the exact same company that's responsible for saving the gaming industry. And now their current console is one of the worst performing ever in history. And it's just crazy to think that it's in their 30 years of making video games, they've gone from basically hero to zero in the eyes of the majority, that is. So really, the Nintendo Switch has its work cut out for it, right? I've said this before, that thing has no momentum coming behind it. I mean, even though it is a hybrid system, a combination of a handheld and a home console, even Nintendo is calling it a home system first and foremost. It is a home gaming system. So it's not an exact successor to the Wii U, but spiritually, yes, it is. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's coming off of nothing. There is no momentum from the Wii U. Alright, so when the Switch launches, it is launching on its own laurels. Alright, it is going to have to rely on its own games, on its price, on everything, on Nintendo's advertising. Everything is by itself. It has nothing to do with the Wii U. Before, Nintendo was kind of launching off the momentum of the Wii. I mean, once again, but one of the best-selling systems of all time. So, quite frankly, of course they expected the Wii U to sell well. The fact that they put Wii in the name again should tell you that they were expecting that same level of hype, that same level of interest, and that didn't happen, unfortunately, because by the time the Wii U came out, quite frankly, the crowd that made the Wii such a success no longer cared. They had moved on. They'd move on to their mobile devices. They had been picked up by PlayStation Move and Kinect. They no longer cared about the Wii. So by the time that the Wii U came out, it wasn't the fact that people didn't really know what it was. It was just the fact that they didn't care to know what it was. And the gaming community, the core gaming community, also, they knew and understood what it was, but they weren't checking because they were too busy with PlayStation, Xbox, and of course PC. So yeah, it's unfortunate that the Wii U has to go out like this. It's unfortunate that it's had such a hard life, but at the same time, it has amassed a very good library of games, okay? There aren't that many amazing games on the Wii U, but there are quite a few. Mario Kart 8, Splatoon, Super Mario 3D World, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Bayonetta 2, Wonderful 101, Lego City Undercover, Sonic Lost World, Need for Speed Most Wanted Year, Mass Effect 3, Twilight Princess HD, Windworker HD. I'm just naming games off the top of my head. Shovel Knight, Runner 2, Steam World Dig, and Steam World Heist, and so many great indie titles as well. And that's another thing. Nintendo did a lot of good things with the Wii U. They really pushed their first-party studios to produce some really great games. They really took in the indie crowd, because despite the Wii U not selling as good as the PS4 and the Xbox One, a lot of the multi-platform indie games ended up selling just as good, and in some cases, if not better, on Wii U than they did on the other platforms, but had much bigger user bases. So that should tell you that Nintendo really pushed the indie community very, very hard. And they seem to be doing the exact same thing again with the Switch, as you would expect them to. And so they also got their feet wet in HD development. Of course, they're almost a decade late, but they finally had their development teams making HD games. Obviously, at this point, they've gotten better at it, so now these games should be able to come out a lot faster than they did on Wii U. And they also dipped their feet in getting a real online infrastructure going. The Nintendo Network is not as robust as Xbox Live or PlayStation Network, but it is not nearly as bad as the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection was on Wii and DS. Come on, you have to be honest. Wii U and 3DS's online system, not as good as PS4 and Xbox One and PS Vita, but not nearly as bad as it was in the 7th generation. It actually is, it's comparable. It's low class, but it was free, and it is indeed comparable. So yeah, they got the ball rolling on a lot of things that they should have done back in the 7th generation, that they only just got around to because now they had a system that could actually handle it and support it. But it's allowed them to now come with the Switch armed and ready to be a modern gaming platform. The Wii U was, I guess you can say, a transitional system. It was Nintendo trying to jump from being low class and simple to medium class and comparable. And now with the Switch, I guess you can say it's probably might just end up being a high-class system that's just as good as the other guys. We don't know that yet for sure, but the signs are pointing in that direction in some cases. We will just have to wait and see how it turns out. They have the development environment correct. We have Unity support, we have Unreal Engine support, so that's good. That means games will be coming because it's using modern, popular engines. So that's good for game development. And it also has its own advantages in terms of being a portable home console. That's going to have its own advantages, and I hope Nintendo really pushes the fact that you can take home experiences on the go. That's going to be a major selling point, and a lot easier to communicate than what the Wii U was, because when people saw the Wii U tablet, Wii U gamepad, it was like, okay, what is this? It is a controller. It's not the system. It's the controller, and you can use it in a variety of different ways, and unfortunately, Nintendo was not able to communicate that. I understood the concept of the Wii U from the very beginning, and I was like 14 when that thing was announced. So I don't understand why the majority of the public, quote-unquote, did not understand. Like I said, they didn't want to understand. It wasn't that they didn't, it's just that they just didn't want to. So the Switch's concept is a lot more easier to advertise. It has big games coming out from the very first year, unlike the Wii U did, because a lot of the big system sellers for the Wii U did not come until a year or more after it had launched. That's not the case with the Switch. It's launching with Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's getting games like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe a month after, then it's getting Splatoon 2 a few months after, then it's getting Super Mario Odyssey at the end of the year. So a lot of big releases are lined up for less than 6 months after the system launches. That is amazing, and I really hope Nintendo keeps that momentum going for the Switch. So bringing it back to the Wii U, of course, a lot of mistakes were definitely made. Unfortunately, its concept was not easy to advertise. It, quote-unquote, was too expensive. It didn't have the robust features that it needed to have from the very beginning, like a functioning UI, a proper online system, and things of that nature. It didn't have a steady flow of games. A lot of its major titles came way after the system had launched. It had terrible third-party support. A lot of mistakes were made, but hopefully Nintendo has learned their lesson with the Switch. We can only hope. And if the Switch comes out low and slow the way the Wii U did, then perhaps 4 more years from now, we're going to be in the exact same boat that we are, where Nintendo system has underperformed. They have now announced their brand new system, and we're just hoping that it finally gets things right. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But really, if the Switch doesn't do well, I don't see Nintendo having much of a future in the console development business. I'm not saying that they're going third party. I'm just saying it's going to be very hard to trust them. When I say it's going to be very hard, I mean the general gaming community. You're always going to have Nintendo fans. You're going to stick with them through thick and thin. But the general gaming community is virtually at odds with Nintendo. They do not care at this point. So it's going to take a lot of convincing to get people to realize that Nintendo does matter, that they do have a proper place in the console industry. You'll just have to wait and see how the Switch performs before that future is fully realized, to see exactly how much time they have in the home console industry. So with that said, I'm going to wrap up the video here before it gets too long. Again, I am happy to have experienced many games on the Wii U. I had it since the very beginning, so I've seen it through its worst times and its best times. It's sad to see it go. I really enjoyed the system, and I hope Nintendo will do better this time around. We just have to wait and see. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you later. This is AK, owner of Extreme Measure Productions, signing off.